Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into tonight's second half, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into tonight's second half, shall we? All right, everybody. Tonight I'm going to do something different, but something that I've wanted to do for a little while now, since I first got the book in the mail, and then I actually gave you guys a chapter and discussed it a little bit. Tonight I have the author of Revelations, The Human Hominid Connection. I have TJ Neely with me. TJ, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jeffrey. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. This book is, it's mind-blowing, guys. The way TJ wrote it, it's a very smooth, easy read, but it's packed with information, and his research. I mean, right now TJ is a true researcher. This guy has spent hours, months and hours and years researching this. So I'm going to give the floor to TJ a little bit, and then we're just going to, like I said, we're doing something completely different. We're kind of going to do this in a podcast way. So, TJ, can you give us a little bit of info on your book, where you came about wanting to write this, and everything else like that?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Thanks, Jeff. But first, before we get started, I don't want to steal any thunder from the book, so I'll kind of give you a Reader's Digest on some of the stories in here. But I want to thank you, Jeffrey, for providing the platform through your channel for all of us out here that have had these encounters and experiences, because it serves as an awesome venue for us to share these experiences, to get them off our chest, to helps us decompress. It's very therapeutic, and in turn it gets this information out to the people, and they need to know. The world needs to know that these things exist. And it all turned around and changed my life back in 1984 when I was in my junior year in college up in Central Washington State. And we were spending a lot of time out in the woods doing a lot of your basic training and techniques and stuff, patrolling and land navigation and stuff like that. And up to that point in time, just like so many of you, I was aware of the Patterson-Gimlin story and the famous video that came out of California, and I've seen the Boggy Creek monster movie, and then I read a couple newspaper clippings and things about, hairy man spotted over here and something crazy wild animal over there. So I was neither a skeptic nor a believer, but I always entertained the thought that, wow, it'd be kind of cool if something like this did exist. So we're off on this field training exercise as cadets I went to school at Central Washington State, so our training area was up in the Wenatchee Forest, and that is on the east side of the Cascade mountain range that runs north and south. And so we're up there like about 3-4 day event, and one night sitting there tending to the fire because we have to, protect against forest fires and stuff like that. And everybody else is in their sleeping bags snoring away. And it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm supposed to be relieved so I can go to sleep. And the next guy comes on board and stokes the fire and keeps it going. And that was mostly because a lot of wildlife would walk through. I think the class before us, we had a herd of elk walk through, and one of them leaned down and licked the salt off of one of the cadets' faces and freaked him out. And he jumped up and took off running through the woods until he probably ran into a tree, knocked himself out. And then, of course, the question is well, how does somebody run in a sleeping bag? And I tell you what, you get 1 foot through the zipper, and you can do it. You can run as far as you want. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, already accepted the fact that I'm going to be here until sunup. So I'm just stoking the fire, keeping it going. And over my right shoulder, this ruckus. It's like a herd of something is coming through the woods. And it's like, oh, okay, it's probably just a herd of elk. Let me throw some more wood on the fire here and all. And then it just went dead still. I mean, absolutely quiet, like something's there, but it's not. And so I'm like looking around, trying to see what's going on. And just as I start to think that, oh, well, it's probably moved off, it realized we were there in its path and it moved off, I notice out of the corner of the side of my eye, this huge thing standing upright on 2 legs next to a pine tree, no further than 30 feet away. And all I'm detecting is what the glow of the fire is providing. And my hair stood on end. The fear factor, you can't even begin to describe that correctly, because when you realize that you're looking at something that you're told does not exist, it totally blows your mind, and you have to process this and try to deal with this, up close and personal. And here I'm the only one awake that's witnessing this thing. And it moved into position absolutely without any sound whatsoever. And what I was looking at was an 800-pound, 9.5-foot Sasquatch. And black skin, covered in black hair, and it's standing there looking at me, or looking down at me, because I'm sitting like Indian style in front of the fire. And what was amazing is it was counting us. I could see the glint, the amber glint of the fire in its big black eyes, and its eyes were moving all over the scene, and it was counting us, and it was checking me out, and it realized that I was the only one awake, and that I knew it was there. And I still get the willies telling this story even today, and this happened back in 1984. So just when I start to realize that, okay, this is something I got to deal with, and I'm not going to make any sudden moves or anything. I'm just going to wait and see what this thing's going to do, because there's nothing you can do to prevent it from doing anything. Right. It is a monster in the wild, living on the fringe of human civilization, and it is truly a monster. And when I say monster, picture a Hulk, a 9.5-foot, 10-foot Hulk, slimmer, but replace the green skin with black and cover it in hair at about 4 inches in length, and there you have it. And so just when I started to get it processed, it moves. It moves counterclockwise, and it's using the big pine trees to mask itself. And I didn't hear one sound. I didn't hear one footfall. It did not growl at me. It didn't grunt at me. All I could hear was it sniffing. It would sniff and exhale, and I could barely hear that, and that was the only sound this thing made. And for something, and that was amazing in and of itself, because of you're looking at something that huge and that heavy, and it's moving in stealth mode, even though it knows that you're looking at it, was amazing too. So it moved counterclockwise all the way around me. And I'm stoking the fire. I'm throwing more and more sticks on the fire because I want to increase the range of the glow of the firelight so I can get a better look at this thing. And now it's back behind me. And it's like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to make any moves or anything. So I just said, well, I'm just going to be calm. He knows I know it's there, and I know it's there. And so when it got behind me, I would just turn my head to the side a little bit just to kind of let him know that I knew where he was. And I say he because you sense this alpha male presence, the way it stood up, tall, erect, and proud, and on two legs, and it was commanding the entire situation. That's the best way to say it. It was in charge. And I was just there to witness the encounter and hope nothing else would happen. And it was at that point, back was to the north, and I was facing south, and there was just a very gentle little breeze filtering through the pine trees that I picked up a scent of a very wild, musky, sweaty, wet animal. And it wasn't putrid. It wasn't, like the normal scent that you find or you experience in the woods that can range on very putrid and make you gag and all. This was a little different. I don't know if he had crossed through a stream and washed himself off or what, but it was just a very heavy, musky smell. And we were carrying rubberized M16s at the time, and mine was sitting on the right-hand side of me on the ground, and it's like I noticed him when he was standing in front of me. He was looking at that. So I said, well, I'm not even going to move in the direction. I'm not even going to touch it. It wouldn't do any good anyway. But it made it clear to me that he knew what that was. It was a bang stick. It was a rifle, a gun, something that could cause him harm and make a lot of noise. And if it was real, yeah, probably. But it was interesting that he was staring at me, and he would look at the rubberized rifle on the ground and look back at me. So I just left it lay. I didn't even make reference to it or anything. I'm just stoking the fire because I want to see more of this huge man beast. So it moved again back from behind me, back around to my right-hand side, back to the same tree where I initially saw it. And at this point in time, I'm having this, it's hard to explain. There was a mental connection going on. It was reassuring me that we just happened to be in its way. It was on its way down into the valley, and we just happened to be in its way, and we were in no harm, and it was just, it's an amazing feeling. It's a mental communication, like mind speak kind of thing, where you feel and sense what he's thinking or what he wants you to know, and it's hard to explain. Some sort of empathic, cognitive connection or something. They unlock this when they're in your presence, and I've had this happen many, many more times after that experience. So here it is, standing back next to the pine tree, at the first pine tree where I saw it, and the fire is glowing a little bit more, so I'm seeing it in a lot more detail. And I can tell it has the skin was oily. There was a glint of firelight off of its nostril and bridge of its nose and eyebrow, and it could not see any ears, could not see a neck. I mean, there's a lot of hair, from the head down. The hair off the elbows was like about 6 inches. The rest of the hair was about 4. His right hand was up on the tree. The left hand was hanging straight down toward his left knee, and the fingertips stopped right above the left knee. So the forearm was much longer than the bicep, and the bicep was just massive. The bicep was like the size of my thigh. It was just crazy. And then the fingers on this thing, if you picture big bananas with fingernails, not claws, fingernails at the end, black skin, not much hair on the hands. That's what this thing looked like. It was huge. I mean, it could put its whole hand around my head, and that added to the size and in the digits and in the legs and the arms, and it wasn't an old one and it wasn't a young one. It was in prime health. It was a prime specimen. I mean, he was proud and standing up straight. So I noticed this broken off limb. There's like a little knob sticking out up above his head, and I said, I'm going to use that in the morning to determine how tall this thing was. So I made a mental note of that. And then it moved again, and then it moved again, and I got this strange feeling of calm all of a sudden that, okay, I'm out of here. It was a great experience, and I'm on my way. And then it was gone. And the tension of the situation, everything just dissipated. The presence that I was feeling, all that just dissipated, and it was gone. And I was left there totally drained, emotionally, physically drained. I mean, I couldn't feel my legs. The adrenaline that was rushing through my system was just absolutely amazing. And so I just kind of sat there through the rest of the night. Nothing else could happen that night that could compare to that. So I kept the fire going. Sun started coming up. We got everybody up and going. And when some of my buddies realized that, hey, so-and-so didn't relieve you, did they? And I go, no, couldn't get them up. I went over there and kicked them a couple times, and they wouldn't get up. So I just tended to the fire throughout the night. And they said, well, how was it? And I said, well, I kind of threw it out there jokingly just to test the water with these guys. I said, well, we had a visitor. And they go, what? And I said, yeah, a big 2-legged hairy visitor. We had a Sasquatch walk through the camp. And they go, oh, no, you didn't. You must have been delirious. So all the ridicule and then the razzing started immediately at that point in time. And that's when I realized that, you know what? I know something that you don't. And it's not going to do any good for me to tell you about it unless you have an open mind and you realize that these things could very well possibly exist, and you could embrace it if you have an experience of your own. But I tell you what, seeing is truly believing, and I was committed to knowing more about these things, because from that point in time on forward, I knew they existed, and I knew something that a lot of people didn't, and I had an amazing experience, and it did. It changed my perspective on life, and it kind of set a course for my investigation efforts, and I've been doing that for the last 36 years. And I've been going out on my own excursions, my own little hunting trips, and sometimes just by putting yourself out there in the wilderness, just on a little camping trip or a fishing trip, you will encounter all kinds of interesting things. You'll see evidence everywhere. See, once you train yourself to pick up on the evidence that exists, you will see it everywhere, and they are out there because they truly are anywhere and everywhere that they want to be. I mean, you find them, on the fringe of our own civilization, not just deep in the wild up in the Appalachians and the mountains or what have you. You'll find them in your backyard if you're living out far enough. But it was amazing, an amazing experience. And that's what set the course for me, and it changed the way I looked at a lot of things in life. It made me question a lot of things, too. So all my research, all my little adventures and expeditions, I collected information, I created files and folders, I did more research, talked to other people. Then I had people coming to me with their encounters and experiences, and would help them along, help them understand what was happening and taking place. And because the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot creature, is very closely like us, human beings, that was the focus of my research. It wasn't until, like, I would say 10, 12 years ago when I became aware of the other two that make up the big three with Sasquatch. And then my interest started flowing in that direction too. Well, what are these other two critters that are out there? The Dogman species and the werewolf species, and so I kind of started collecting some information on those as well. And I would encounter those too. I've actually saw I believe it was a Dogman up on a bluff, looking down at the traffic below as I was driving by. And that was an amazing thing. It was a big black silhouette, and I've got a picture of that in the book. But it's kind of set the course for me, and I've been doing this for 36 years. And what drove me to actually producing this book, writing this book, is a select few friends and some family members that are also very open-minded and also believe in that these things exist. Would kind of poke and prod me and says, well, you need to pull all this together and put it in a book and get it out there, because, you know, it's a lot of us enjoy reading about stuff like this, and people need to know. And so I actually started, I sat down on my laptop, I started putting it together, I think last November 2019, and I finished it up the end of May or middle of June, and then submitted it to Amazon, and I got it published, and it's out there for all of you. So I hope you enjoy it. I had a lot of fun writing it. I call it my COVID project because I had a little extra time on my hands working from home, and it was a very fun project, and I had to cut it off at 180 pages because there's just so much material out there, and so much material that I had in my own files. I mean, Jeff and I had a long chat just before me talking about this book, and we were sharing experiences from our childhood, you know, that kind of make you go, you scratch your head.
Yeah.
And but these things are alive and well. They exist.
Not to cut you off really quick.
They know all about us.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are destroying their habitat and are denying their existence.
TJ,
you know?
To stay on that right where you were saying they know about us, I wanted to kind of touch bases on two things that you... Now, when he said there's a picture of this Dogman in the book, this book is full of information and pictures, and he just stated that they know about us. One of my favorite pics in this book, and it's an amazing picture, is in Chapter 5, the W2R project, and it's the rock stacking. Can you share about what you told me about the Sasquatch and how they teach their kids or their young ones about us?
Yeah, they in my research, there's many encounters out there where someone will be sitting on a bank fishing, and a young one will come out, and he's very interested in fish. You know, you got to fish. You know, and he wants to interact with the kid that's fishing on the bank, or he wants the kid's fish, or what have you. And you know, mom and dad is standing just inside the tree line. So I think they set up a lot of situations where they educate themselves on who we are and what we're all about. And the rock stacking case that you pointed out was very interesting. It was one of the most interesting local cases that I had. I was going out to lunch with some of my buddies, and they said, "Oh, by the way, did you notice those rock stacks on the right-hand side coming out the gate of Redstone Arsenal?" And I go, "No, I didn't take a look at that." He says, "You need to go take a look at it. It's kind of unique." So I did. I made some time. I stopped there and took a bunch of pictures, and then went down to the fence line. And I said, "You know what? The way these rocks are stacked, it looks like they're defying gravity." And it took someone painstakingly a lot of time to find the right rock to stack it just right. I'm not just talking 2 or 3, 4 rocks. I mean, we're talking some of these are like 6, 7 high, and they are balanced absolutely perfect. And then I said to myself, I said, well, there's got to be more here than just the rock stack. So then I focused my attention onto the fence with the barbed wire, 3 strings of barbed wire across the top. And it's like, holy cow, something huge stepped over this fence. And I got a picture of that in the book too. It pulled the barbed wire offsets down completely. You can see where a foot stepped on top of the barbed wire and bent it down. And the chain link fence also. So it was very clear that something came from the woods on the garrison, the installation, over the fence, spent the whole night, because they're mostly nocturnal, putting these rock stacks together just to get the attention of all of these people driving by in their vehicles. And it worked, because just in the 30 minutes of me standing there, looking at these things, doing my initial investigation, I had 3 cars. People just stop, jump out, run over, stack three rocks together, jump in their car, and take off again. And I said, what an awesome idea or opportunity to educate the young by having a distraction like this, forcing people to stop their vehicles, jump out, so you can study them. You can study the vehicles, the inside of the vehicles. You can study the people, what they're wearing, how they act. And kind of, like I said in the book, it was kind of like a monkey see, monkey do a situation where us human beings were the monkeys. Because none of the rock stacks that the humans were erecting on the spot could even compare to the beauty of the original rock stacks. So I think that was done to distract people. I think it was done to get a closer look at people. I think it was done to maybe educate the young. Because the whole time I was standing there next to the fence, my 6th sense gets piqued, and it's like, yep, something's watching me, and I'm paying very close attention to their work, and they like that. I'm sure that was the feeling I was getting. There was no evil, dread feeling, nothing like that. It was all curiosity and high energy. It was all good stuff, but I could sense a presence. So I jumped back in my car after I got the pictures and went back in the gate and just kind of made small talk with one of the gate guards. And I said, hey, what's the story on these rock stacks? Oh yeah, just some homeless dude back there comes out and does this stuff. Of course, there's no homeless guy going to be living on a highly secured, Army installation, test bed. Doing that, living in a tick, snake, and mosquito-infested swamp. So that ruled that out. He just threw that out there to get me to disengage and move on. So that was the end of the first initial investigation. And then the second investigation, I came back out the gate, and everything was knocked down. Completely knocked down. So I went back to the gate and asked the gate guard, and he said, oh yeah, we knocked them all down because it was causing too much of a distraction. Too many people were stopping and gawking and setting up their own rocks, and we were afraid it was going to cause an accident, so we knocked it all down. So I said, okay, great, that's a good explanation. So about a week later, the rock stacks were back up again. It was amazing. It started all over again. So so I took a whole bunch of pictures, and I got those in the book, and I went the extra mile, and I made sure that the photos that I put in this book were all in color, because I noticed in a lot of other books and stuff that I was reading, the pictures that are in black and white, they're very hard to see the detail, and you don't really know exactly what you're looking at. But I wanted to go color with these, so you guys could relate more closely to what it was I was describing. So that was the rock stacking, and to further that, I took a box of those rocks, and I went out here in my back 40, and just as part of my personal investigation, and using object communication techniques, I took about 5 of these stones, and I would stack them a certain way, and then come back a couple days, and they would be rearranged and restacked. And I would knock them all down and come back, and they'd be stacked back up. And they'd be stacked in pairs. And then I would use a couple marbles and a uniquely shaped stone, and I would set up something on a log and a stage, and it was completely rearranged. So this is part of the object communication drills that I was doing with the local ones, and I mean, it's all signs of intelligence. It's amazing. But I really think or hoped you enjoy the book. I tried to put out as much information as I could and tie as much things together, because it's all relative. The more you peel back this layer and that layer, and you pull on this string that's associated with that event or that encounter or that happening, it all gives way to a much bigger picture. And the secrecy is there for a reason. You can believe, it to be what you want it to be, but it is what it is. These things exist. They're out there. I've encountered them. I've had 2 face-to-face encounters, and those are different than just regular sightings and encounters. And my neighbor, Mike, asked me a great question. Says, well, how do you differentiate or distinguish between an encounter and then what you call a face-to-face encounter? And it comes down to one thing in my mind. It's the eye contact. When you come face-to-face and you make eye contact with one of these creatures, is when you see the emotion, the expression, and the intelligence in the face of this thing. And it is totally amazing. So a face-to-face encounter in my book is the end-all, be-all to all encounters, because that's when you have that connection. You can see one dashing across the street. Okay, I saw the hind end of one, that was a sighting. Or an encounter where, you're out there and you smell him and he's leaving you gifts and you're leaving him gifts, and they, you have a nice routine set up and all that stuff. Or you're sitting on your patio, drinking a cold beer, and he's whooping at you from inside the tree line. Or I taught myself how to play the Native American flute, which is a beautiful instrument. And on nights where there's a full moon and the weather's good, I'll go stand out there by the tree line, and I just play for about an hour. And I walk up down the tree line, and I actually had a juvenile Bigfoot squatting down no further than 10 feet from me, enjoying the music. And I could tell I could sense it was there. I could see it was there. There was no fear whatsoever. It was purely enjoying the music, but I could not clearly see it, because the only light I had was the light of the full moon filtering down through the forest, through the trees, down on it. I could see a head, I could see the shoulders, and I knew it was sitting there enjoying what it was that I was doing. And it was amazing. It's amazing. But there again, that's an encounter, that's a sighting, but it's not a face-to-face. Face-to-face is when it's eye contact and you make that connection, and you experience the emotion and the expression and the intelligence. And so that's all I can say about that. Did you have any other questions, Jeffrey?
You get a whole new line of respect for that creature when you see their eyes. Yeah, actually, I have when TJ first reached out to me, it was right around the time that he was working on the book. He shared it was a brief encounter about what would you think it would be, the Sasquatch or Dogman with the noise coming out of the swamp that time?
That was a Dogman.
Okay.
You sure you want me to go there? And it goes all the way back to Victor.
I do want you to go
back. That one ties into Victor.
We got about 15 minutes if you want to. I'd love to hear it. I'd love everyone else to hear it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that ask questions, so let's go for it.
Okay, all right. Well, this was interesting. I just finished some yard work, and I was just chilling out on the back patio, and the sun was almost down, and I'm hearing this very mournful sounds like this big dog just howling into the night, and it's like I wrote it off as, it's somebody's bloodhound or something, but the more I listened to it, I realized that this is no dog. I mean, the lung capacity, the range that this thing was going, and I stepped around the house, and I could hear it was coming from a kilometer away on the other side of the housing area in the swamp area. But I was getting most of the sound as it was reflecting, bouncing off of the trees in my backyard. And I'm listening to it, and it's going on and on and on, and it's mournful, and it's heavy. And then it would stop for a minute, like if it was expecting a response from another creature of its kind, and then it would start back up again. So I was like, holy cow. I tried to record it, but I was only getting the bounce back off the trees, so it wasn't very good. So the next night, it's like, I'm gonna sneak over there on that side in those woods, and I'm gonna record this thing if it starts to howl again. So, I went ahead and walked through the neighborhood. I had all my stuff with me underneath my little jacket because it was in the, it was much cooler. The environment was cooler, and the leaves had already started to fall, so you could see a little deeper in the woods. But it was going to be nighttime. I knew I was going to be in the woods at night, so I had my thermal monocular with me, so I could see what was moving around. And of course, I had some protection with me at the time. I always carry a 44 Magnum strapped on a holster in my chest, and then I put a little jacket over top. So I slipped into the woods to the north and found a nice spot on the edge of the swamp and sat down there, and I had my recorder ready, and if the thing was going to start howling again, I was going to catch it and record it. And so right about 9, I think it was around 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night, all hell breaks loose. I mean, I'm seeing movement, I'm hearing movement, because sound travels over water much further and clearer than it does, through thick woods and stuff like that. So in there throughout the swamp on the other side, and I could hear stuff in the woods, and then all hell breaks loose like a firefight for about 4 or 5 seconds. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is not right. There's something's going on here in the swamp. So I immediately put my thermal monocular up, because I'm saying, well, if there's a direct action going down here, somebody's taking care of business, then I need my howler is probably involved, and I need to back the hell out of here. So I'm looking, checking checking my area in my lane, and I don't see any thermal signatures at all. So I go ahead and back on out of the woods real quick, and then get on back to the house. But the whole time I'm very concerned, thinking like, you know what? From my military experience, that's like a meeting engagement. It's like you're moving through the jungle. You encounter the enemy. They weren't where you expected them to be, but you unloaded on them, and until the threat was put down. You know, it was a firefight for about 10 seconds, and then everything goes dead quiet. And then so that's what it reminded me of. But I had this sixth sense going on, like if something else was in the swamp, and somebody else was there doing taking care of some business the next day. So as I'm driving to work the next day, in come these two big cargo helicopters. You got a Chinook, U.S. Army Chinook, and then an Mi-8 Russian helicopter comes right on in, and they're flying in formation, and they land at the little forward operating base area on Redstone Arsenal. When that's not completely unusual, because we have a lot of Army aviation assets supporting, you know, flight tests and stuff like that's going on. But normally these helicopters aren't involved in any of that. So I'm just thinking, I said, that's peculiar. So when sometimes, you know, certain things add up that paint a completely different picture. You know, you might just write up, oh, the howler, yeah, fine, whatever, somebody's dog howling. But no, it was unique and distinct. And then the firefight while I was out there, I said, that was different too. And it was in the vicinity of this howler. And then the other thing was, man, you got some big cargo helicopters coming in, you know, the very next day. And I said, that's, you put these three things together, something's going on. There's a mission happening. And I said to myself, well, it could be, you know, my howler, you know, somebody saw it, or it got in somebody's backyard and scared somebody, and a phone call was made, and you know, somebody else got involved, and that was the end of that. So it wasn't until much later, but matter of fact, when I discovered your channels earlier this year, Jeff, and Victor, a.k.a. William, was on sharing his information with us, which I thought was a great sequence of events, that I realized through some of the questions that I presented to him that his team did get called in, and they did remove 3 Dogman from that swamp that night. And the details are in the book, guys. I don't want to steal a whole bunch of thunder, but it was very interesting and very eye-opening, and confirmed a lot of things, and for me specifically.
Yeah.
And so, and I mentioned Victor in there too. I think on a couple uploads, you had my questions that I submitted to you, Jeff, that he answered, and it helps paint a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I think the world needs to know that these things are alive and well, and we have to deal with them.
Definitely. Really quick, we're all coming up on time. I just want to kind of touch basis on something. TJ is not your average run-of-the-mill person. He has spent the majority of his adult life in the military. And, you know, how many years were you? Did you retire from the military?
Yeah, retired 20 years. Eight of those years were in special operations.
So TJ isn't the aluminum foil hat wearing guy. He's a legit person, you know, and to have Victor verify and TJ verify Victor was amazing for me. This book is truly amazing. I can't say enough about it, and I hope that you guys, I will put a link to the book. It's on Amazon in the description below. Also, TJ and I were talking, like he said earlier, for a good 45, 50 minutes prior to the interview. He's going to help me with my book, and I'm looking forward to getting as much advice as I can, because that's how good this book is, and I can't say enough about it. It was an honor having you on tonight. I really appreciate it, and I hope that, you know, I can have you on again just to shoot the breeze, or you can talk more about your research. Thank you for coming on.
You bet. Anytime that I can support your channel and your effort, because I believe in its purpose, and I really think it's doing a lot of people a lot of good. There's no need, folks, to keep all of this inside to yourself. These things exist, and we just have to deal with them. And I lay all that out, how to approach these situations appropriately, and it's wonderful. I mean, I've been in the presence of many Bigfoot, and they didn't mean me any harm whatsoever. They were more curious than anything else. And a lot of them have great sense of humor too. But it's the more the violent natured ones, the other ones that you want to be careful of. You'll come in contact with some of them in the wild, and they mean you no harm. They're curious, like the Dogman has a sinister side to them, and they want to scare you, and they get a lot of entertainment factor out of that. But there are also those that will tear you limb from limb and eat you. So we definitely want to get the word out there. I tell you what, anybody who has any experience, any kind of story, encounter, if you've been out there studying these things on your own like I have been, it's time for you to put together your own book or share your stories with Jeff, and let's get the information out there, because it is a database. One of your subscribers mentioned it being a database. It is. It's a huge database, and we can all learn from that and take it forward. And it's all about keeping the public safe and secure. I mean, there's no reason why we need to stay indoors. Let's go out and enjoy the nature and our parks and all that, and go on hikes and hunting and fishing trips and stuff. Just be very aware of what else is out there, and what you can do to make it a safer experience for yourself and your family.
Absolutely. TJ, we're out of time. Thank you for coming on, and
my pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for me to have you on, truly. Thank you so much, and have a great night.
Hey, you too. Take care.
Well, there you have it, folks. Tonight's second half. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. A lot of information right there. Grab that book, T.J. Neely, Revelations. Very interesting book. Guys, thanks for supporting the channel. Your support is what makes this channel continue to grow and go, and honestly what gives people a chance and a place to share their experiences and theories judgment-free, simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this info with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the answers, and God bless.